Well, folks, this week, the Republican Party, alongside Vice President Pence and others within the conservative leadership, have made the case that America is and will be bigger and better without Biden and with another 4 years with Donald Trump as president. As our nation remains divided in light of another shooting of an African American, cities continue to burn under Democratic leadership from coast to coast. Now, the overpaid, out-of-touch professional athletes of the NBA and others believe that sitting out of their playoff games will somehow bring the legitimacy of the Black Lives Matter movement from the lawless streets of Kenosha, Wisconsin, to the mainstream media and Main Street America. With less than 10 weeks before the 2020 election, Biden and the Democrats remain dumbfounded. Buckle up. I'm going to break down all this week's events. This is Eric Wright, and you're listening to the Closet Conservative Podcast. Here we go again. Our nation and its cities continue to burn. Rioters are plaguing our nation's streets with unrest, engaging in criminal activity, and claiming that yet again, an innocent black man was shot at the hands of white, racist police officers. On what appears to be a broken record soundbite wrapped nice and pretty for Joe Biden and the Democrats, Hollywood and professional athletes around the country are attempting to again whitewash the shooting of an innocent, loving, law-abiding, poor black victim under police white supremacy. Yet again, Joe Biden, the Democratic Party, with the help of their liberal mainstream media, leave out all of the details on just who was killed and why police may have used deadly force against an uncooperative suspect. So, just who is Jacob Blake? 29-year-old Jacob Blake is a suspected criminal, folks. And according to the Kenosha News, Blake was arrested and charged with third-degree sexual assault, trespassing, and disorderly conduct connected with the domestic abuse last month with his ex-girlfriend. These charges stem from an event in May in which Blake is accused of stealing a victim's car after sexually assaulting her, and an arrest warrant was issued for Blake's arrest on July the 6th. Now, reporters have said that the charges filed against Blake last month should not be used to justify the shooting. But according to Blake's family, he is now paralyzed from the waist down as a result of his injuries stemming from the 7 gunshot wounds received at the hands of the 7-year-old veteran of the Kenosha Police Department. But like with the shooting of every other African American, liberal Democrats and the misrepresentations made by the drive-by media would have the American people believe that white police officers are out for nothing more than black blood. And these mischaracterizations are both deceiving and a deliberate attempt to sweep the socialist movement led by Biden and Kamala Harris under the rug and somehow paint President Trump at fault for the failed policies of 50-year-old politicians who are soft on crime, anti-conservative, liberal, Democrat, local, and state legislators. And like many of you listening today, folks, I am so sick and tired of the political perversion of the American policy by the hands of Democrats like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and steamrolled through Congress by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. These career, swamp-wading Democratic politicians have done absolutely nothing to preserve and protect any Americans, let alone those of the black community. And yet, like a dog in heat, they latch on to those lost for making poor life decisions and ultimately paid with those decisions with their lives. And who is to blame? Well, according to Biden and the left, it's white Americans like President Trump, like Mike Pence, and like me and you and many others out there listening. And for Democrats, only whites in this country and their relatives over 150 years ago are to blame for America's current situation. No. It isn't the fault of personal decisions and the broken family systems of America that is to blame for why more minorities in this country commit crimes. It is the fault of Republican lawmakers and those who vote for them as to why young black men decide to rob stores, sell drugs, and take the lives of members of their own race. The real truth is the hypocrisy of the left and the products that push and help pander their perversion of American democracy is to blame for our country's division. After all, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and other members of the DNC and the BLM financiers are the only ones talking about race. To them, folks, everything in this country is a race issue. From buying cars to credit cards, paychecks to courtrooms, the American democratic system has failed each black man, woman, and child in this country. During this week's RNC, Herschel Walker, the former NFL star, spoke about the American dream. The promise of how someone like him, a black man, could go from being a statistic to a star running back. And U.S. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina also spoke this week at the convention and stated in just one generation, his family went from the cotton fields of South Carolina to the halls of Congress. You see, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden and the Democrats don't want to talk about the American dream, the promise of prosperity via hard work and dedication. And why is that? Because for Biden and the Democratic Party, political power is the only thing that matters. The only apparatus that can move mountains for minorities is because for Biden, minorities are ill-equipped to make the proper life choices to excel and become successful. Folks, this should upset every American, but particularly blacks in this country. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have and will not help pull African Americans out of despair. After all, Biden has had over 50 years to put into action and pull off change, and yet, when he should blame himself for his failures, the nearly 78-year-old lays out plans like he just won his first election. Joe Biden has no plan, he has no path, and as a result, he is nothing more than a political puppet for Bernie Sanders and AOC's radical left. They have a big red Russian blueprint on bringing socialism to our streets and communism to the halls of our Congress. In today's America, it is acceptable for those same whiny athletes under the guise of the BLM to call another player a bitch-ass white boy and never face ridicule. The left wants to continue to talk about race because it is their safe bet, the surefire way to keep our nation divided. Ladies and gentlemen, the issues in America are not about race, they are about class. Those who have it and those who don't. Either you love your God with all of your heart, mind, and soul, or you do not. You either love your neighbor as yourself, or you don't. And if you believe in the Holy Bible, you know that replacing the order or substituting any of these two godly requirements will bring nothing but chaos into your life. For those who have chosen to replace religion with radicalism, you have nothing but yourself to blame. No white nor black, old or young politician can offer your life protection. In America, you and I are to blame for our battles. Only we can overcome obstacles with the help of God. We're not masters of our own universe, but we can blaze our path with smart steps in life. I choose to believe that America's issues aren't about race. It is as simple as knowing what is right and what is wrong. As always, I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Take care of yourself and each other. This is Eric Wright, and this has been the Closet Conservative Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Please remember to give a 5-star review and share our podcast with your friends. The Closet Conservative Podcast is a production of The Liberty Loft. Copyright The Liberty Loft, 2020. You can find more shows and information on our website, www.thelibertyloft.com, or any of our social media channels.